We were talking about it just before air. The Nunu buffs are in this patch. The Nunu is the dream as SKT, no messing around, insta-ban of Chases Nidalee.
Yeah, that's really not surprising. One of the least SKT-like champions you can imagine. They're also going to take the Lissandra out of the pool, mostly for Expression, actually.
So let's make mention of a certain champion that was making the rounds yesterday, the Jungle Rumble. I know for a fact that I've seen Chases streaming Rumble, so I think Longzhu also have that Rumble bug. So I think there's a very good chance. I don't know if it'll be last pick, but I think Rumble might also be a pretty heavy consideration in this draft, at least from a Longzhu perspective.
Rumblebug.
That's right.
Sounds like a nickname of like a flyweight boxer.
Last ban Corky, so not giving that over to SKT. We know they would snap them up first pick. That does mean that a certain top laner, Quinn, has made it through to at least the first round, but I think that'll be a later consideration in the draft.
Yeah, definitely going to take that first pick, Alistair, especially for Wolf, one of the very top-tier Alistair players in the world and has been for quite a long time now. And something that I wanted to mention at the start of this while we go through the picks and bans is that a big milestone has actually been reached by this new SKTelecom team ever since the K&S merger. They are now 105-30 all-time and therefore eclipsed the win total of SKTelecom T1K. So in their former two World Championship teams, SKTK had a record of 104-43. So they've actually gone 7% up on the win rate of their old team, and they are sitting at 77.8% win rate and one game above K. So exciting, it's cool, exciting times.
It's a cool stat. I'm just smiling as I see Chaser go between Rumble, Udyr, and Nunu. So certainly showing us some different things, potentially. And look, it's not going to be the Rumble, at least in game one, from a Longzhu perspective, though lock in at least. I mean, just coming back to your stat, interesting just how that compressed timeline has affected everything. We've gone from matching the games in what, a year since SKTelecom pre-K, so it's like 2 years compressed into a year just because of that change to a league format.
Yeah, a year and change for sure.
Engi, he's flashing the Udyr. We know that Udyr has certainly been taking the locked in. Wow, okay.
So let's talk about Runic Echo's Udyr, because that's a fun one.
I mean, Runic Echo Udyr is all about Udyr being super damn fast. Bear stance obviously does have a lot of fast movement speed, but 10% movement speed on the Runic Echo. And then honestly, we're just going to see some stacking of some movement speed items. The likes of Xerath Portal will make their glorious return to champions. Split pushing is the thing. And the burst from Phoenix Stance Max, Runic Echo Udyr, because he does have an overall over 1 AP ratio scaling with AP. You don't normally fit it in the build, but suddenly bursting down those camps, but also doing respectable damage to the minions, as I can see your face curl up a little bit because we're seeing more Kog'Maw on patch 6.2.
Yeah, you might think this is patch 6.3 from looking at it, but it looks like Longzhu is going to Juggermaw on 6.2. Although Juggermaw isn't really a strategy that works anymore, because how it worked previously was that Kog'Maw had very high mobility, but Kog'Maw needs to stand still now, so that's going to be interesting.
I mean, he doesn't need to stand still, but
I would rather Jugger Lucian 100% than try this Juggermaw.
Well, I mean, the theory, right, is Kog'Maw at the front. That was what typified a Juggermaw comp, rather than just protect the Kog'Maw that always has existed in League. So the Kog'Maw's position, I think, is something we're going to have to keep close tabs on, because does the identity change where, as you mentioned, you're attacking so fast, the animation canceling, the auto attack canceling almost can't be a thing.
Yeah, and if you really want to make use of the new Kog'Maw, gotta do that. So we'll be mid-Ezreal, actually, for Faker. Remember,
Faker special.
Yeah, SKT, one of the few teams who will still flex that Ezreal into the mid lane. And they're going to have some interesting split pushing here. It may not look like it, but SKT actually running what is probably going to be a 1-3-1 split composition with an Udyr split pushing.
That's true. I mean, Xerath Portal, if we do see it, it's all about setting that up in one lane, then the Udyr DPSing down minion waves and pushing in another one. Usually don't group and push with the Xerath Portal, although with double AD that's a consideration. But you're looking at a split push comp versus any sort of protector comp is by definition a team fight comp. So how do they round out this draft? They have this Lulu to flex. Are they going to try and pick something that can be lane dominant against the Ezreal, that compared to Corky can't push the lane, can't control the lane as much early? And maybe they're going to create that pressure through the mid lane and be a bit of a gambit to pick up the Twisted Fate, but they go for it.
Yeah, Lulu top going to be the selection here for Expression, so we'll have that range advantage against the Fiora, and that's going to be quite painful. Lulu auto attacks in that matchup. We'll see how well Duke can do in this particular situation. Bang back on one of his big comfort picks in Lucian. And all eyes on Bengi right now, who will be our first professional player here in Korea to run the Luden's Echo Udyr, so he should be zipping around the map. But this is a very Bengi-style champion. It's all about map pressure and control. So
the surprising thing for Bengi, right, was he's playing the Lee Sin, his mechanics look good, and now he returns to a champion that mechanics not really a word you associate with Udyr. He gets into melee range, there's no skill shots to talk about, but this is quintessential Bengi. We thought the Nunu would be the first Bengi champion to come back into the meta, but nope, Runic Echo Udyr, he's picking it up first.
I like how this version of Udyr is now actually viable, and they no longer have Tom on the roster, the Udyr specialist. But that's okay. We get to see Bengi try it out anyway.
Hey, Tom's on Snake now. He might actually see some game time. Maybe we'll see some love letters from Tom in the LPL.
Some love from Tom. Well, there you go. So SKT returning Duke to a carry top laner and going with some pretty nice poke and split pushing potential on the side. Meanwhile, we do have Longzhu once again trying out that TF, and we'll see if they can make the Kog'Maw work in this very odd Juggernaut composition. It really did not work at all for KT because we are on patch 6.2 where Kog'Maw is not quite up to that standard. We're going to be getting into game one, guys. Right now, SKTelecom versus Longzhu. Welcome to game one tonight, SKT versus Longzhu. Longzhu trying to topple another top team after really only taking out the bottom three so far this season. They really haven't lived up to expectations. They haven't had Fury, it's true, he's been banned, but it's the lack of synergy that's been surprising. Glimmers of greatness and then some pretty sloppy play in the late game too. It's a kind of a mystery which Longzhu shows up these days.
It's really fun team comps to kind of unravel in this game. Fiora certainly has that outscale potential onto Lulu in the top lane, so coming back to the split push that we're heavily expecting. But then we think about the Kog'Maw and how yesterday, when faced with a Kog'Maw with 4 picks that didn't really have backline threat, we saw the jungle rumble come out, because of course Kog'Maw fairly immobile, and then the rumble ult, the equalizer doing tick damage. You look at this team comp, as we see Pure and Captain Jack actually going to contest here.
Yeah, wrapping all the way around from the red buff side, so they will just chase Duke and Bengi off. Very creative way to disrupt the lane swap. Haven't seen too much of that in the past. Wolf doing his best right now to make himself annoying at the red. Pure, though, will take some damage, and that's a nice little delay there by Longzhu. Pure.
You say little, it's already 25 seconds till the first camp we expected would have been started. It's getting a bit cute, gonna have to back away.
Yeah, just get the stun off, so no more pursuit, but that'll be a nice little start to this game.
It's almost like 1.5 camps to still 0, but Udyr will certainly catch up and power farm this jungle. That's one thing you can count on from Phoenix Stands Udyr.
Definitely. I'm going to go ahead and skip the red buff right now, heading straight over to the Raptors for the time being. Wow. Coco here pushed in early by Faker, and the danger here from Faker with that Ezreal is when we watch Faker play mid lane Ezreal, it's the way he controls the map with True Shot Barrage. And the really scary thing about SKTelecom's composition here is they have so many ways to apply pressure. They have True Shot Barrage to clip these minion waves. They have this Udyr who is going to be able to clear waves nearly instantly and then set up the Zerat portal for the split push as well. So it's going to be difficult for Longzhu to actually get any kind of pressure in this game, especially with the split pushing Fiora in the top side.
And while Longzhu do get the team fight they're looking for, because there was a worry when you see Fiora that, okay, Fiora does have backline threat onto the likes of Kog'Maw. It's only Fiora in this lineup that can realistically get near the Kog'Maw. Udyr, as fast as he is, will be slowed down by the CC from Braum, specifically from Lulu, who has a suite of CC that always... She's actually one of the champions whose solo has pushed Udyr out of the meta just because he only has the ability to run up to someone. So the thing is that the team fighting phase for Longzhu in an equal game looks pretty good, but given all the tools SKT have around playing the map, it's a mistake from SKT if they ever are opting into a 5v5 fighting phase in an equal game.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, Longzhu has opted for double TP here, and we do see Faker have to burn his cleanse early on that gold card to avoid a gank from the Elise. Very nice pairing of crowd control right there in the mid lane. But yeah, the double TP going to be interesting because they do have answers to some of this split pushing. Not late, of course, against the Fiora, so they have to make the most of it early, but this is going to be a game that is mostly just about minion control, interestingly enough.
Well, we've got the right duo for this game then.
That's right. I enjoy minion wave manipulation, Papa Smithy.
I think you call it turret genocide. That's how you prefer to describe it. And when Udyr gets going, turret genocide is certainly prevalent on the Rift.
Very, very exciting.
But they're just little things that Longzhu do have, right? For example, they do have the Braum to deal with True Shot Barrage in the late games. That is a very important cooldown. We'll see if Pure is on the ball with that. Not on the Bard, we didn't mention, but Bard was actually target banned against Pure this time out. It's just, again, it's a question of the top lane. It's a question of how long can Lulu be relevant clearing waves, or when will Duke get the sort of map pressure that he had on Quinn against Someday last week?
Interestingly enough, Duke actually jumping out to a pretty significant CS lead here. Not something we would have expected after the way this game started and the delays in the jungle, but Bengi catching him right back up, and he's able to catch that bouncing wave and drive it all the way forward. He's now grouping up here on the bottom side, so we will see the exchange once again of turrets in these side lanes.
You look at the laning strength, both teams are probably fine with this swapping of turrets. There's no team that was heavily incentivized to look for the 2v2. Kog'Maw Braum not really wanting to opt into Lucian Alistar, one of the strongest 2v2 bottom lanes. Lulu happy in the laning phase early against Fiora, but of course that will scale towards the Fiora. So the question is, again, it's always about the mid turret, right? How long can the mid turret stay up? Because if it's from a Longzhu perspective, they want to keep the laning phase as long as possible and get Kog'Maw to that Ginsu Rage Blade into Hurricane build where he really starts to hit that next level.
Maybe tough. Coco's gonna make some moves here. Maybe pick up a couple of kills in the side lane to make that happen.
Double teleport and Twisted Fate ult though. That does relieve pressure, at least for a time. The question is, will it be long enough?
There's a big gank coming in here. Bang is way too close to that wall. He's gonna get hit immediately. Bang flashing over the wall, but he will be stunned by the Braum passive. Great gank there. Chaining that cocoon straight into Braum passive stacks, so it's beginning, Papa Smithy. The kill onto Kog'Maw for first blood. They were a little bit tricky there, hiding out in the brush. But what this has done is it's allowed Duke to get quite a bit of farm. So without applying that pressure, Duke is going to be pretty far ahead. So it actually works out pretty much evenly for both of the teams, not in terms of gold, but in terms of their objectives here in this game.
Does allow Expression to get the reverse push, though. That was the big thing, is that that's why Lucian was so aggressive in getting to top, is he wanted to stop a reverse push from coming out. He wanted to ensure that Expression would keep in this hole against Duke, which is already 15 CS. Bang thought he was safe enough with just a single ping, as Bengi.
Yeah, there we go. Does actually force the flash right there after the chilling smite. Bengi not going for the tracker's knife this game. Certainly an oddity for a vision-focused jungler like Bengi is.
And although we've said Runeglaive, there is always the outside chance that a Cinderhulk comes out. We expect this to be the build that's terrorizing solo queue, but there's no guarantee that Bengi will ape the 58% solo queue win rate that Udyr has been able to put out.
I can't imagine him not doing that, Papa Smithy. Like, that would be nearly unconscionable to me, because that seems like the style of play that is right up Bengi's alley.
How many games of Warrior Enchant Lee Sin did you see from Watch? Anything's possible from these OG junglers.
Okay, well, SKTelecom sets their sight on the Rift Herald. They will hand that over to Bengi. Expression here trying to freeze, but not having too much luck there next to his turret. Duke. Yep. Dirk. Called him Dirk.
Good old Dirk.
Guess he's got a real name now.
They'll probably build a serrated Dirk at some point.
There we go, just trimming that wave, and Longzhu headed over to the enemy red side, taking advantage the pressure they've got so far. SKT playing pretty conservatively. They are falling behind ever so slightly. The farm really there for Chaser, even though Udyr, very rapid jungler with that Phoenix stance, not really able to find the camps, and Chaser making more of his time in the enemy jungle.
They know that Lucian doesn't have flash. That's why they're setting up in this area. Longzhu have been very smart at playing around pressure. They're going to start again.
There you go, gold card. Nope, that is just straight up denied. Bang backs off immediately. Bengi is there, so they can't dive the turret, and that'll be not very good Twisted Fate ultimate use. This will give Faker some time in the mid lane. Faker going to be going for that blue build Ezreal.
Surreal that Coco committed to that ult when he had the vision that he did. He had the lane in the right pressure. It was the right time to ult. It's just, it was such a conservative port in the end that it was going to never be a successful game. So it might have to blow his teleport as well. So really a summoner and ult used for no gain whatsoever, as now Ezreal's on the roam a little bit, as you can see on the minimap, and Bang has enough pressure to push up.
Yeah, they did get some catch-up time there for Expression as he was left unharassed, farming next to his top tier 2. Bengi's still lagging behind here when it comes to that farm, and he will be going for the Runic Echoes. Does have the Amp Tome. A real mystery there. Bengi going to walk into the enemy jungle by himself. Wolf following behind him now. So just a quick little warding mission as they push this all the way back.
I have to say, Longzhu's play in the early game here, again, it's always been one of their strengths this season, has been the early game, but they've once again been really on the ball. They played with their vision control, got that early kill on Lucian, and what they've done, controlling one side of the jungle and then swapping to the other side, is they've given room for Captain Jack to push and farm. He's equal in farm against the Lucian, but they've actually cleared out so many enemy camps that Udyr is significantly fine. He's almost doubling, at least almost doubling Udyr's CS, just because there's never been a camp for Udyr to pick up.
Bengi actually hit the smite just a little bit late on that. He was trying to smite it before the True Shot Barrage came through, but they didn't quite make it work right there. Instead ended up hitting it just a fraction of a second after the True Shot Barrage hit the blue buff, so not the greatest transition there. Nice attempt, however. Duke now just going to be pulling the minion wave over to the side so he can freeze effectively without it going straight into his tier 2.
But the thing about Longzhu is that Udyr has never had pressure in the lanes and room to counter jungle. That's where Udyr shines, being able to nip in, instantly kill the Raptors, then leave, try and control the enemy jungle. It's actually been Longzhu dictating the jungle matchup, despite the fact that, on balance, SKT probably do have more winning lanes than Longzhu picked in the early game.
Yeah, and that's reflecting so far. Longzhu with that first blood, and now this jungle advantage is creeping out to a pretty nice gold lead here. At 11 minutes, SKT going to be fighting from behind.
Wolf still 5.
Have to block everything off for him right there and make sure that he survives. True Shot Barrage not doing too much damage just yet. And look at this tier into Trinity Force actually for Faker. So he's going for the Trinity Force build with the tier as opposed to what I thought was going to be a blue build.
And one of the smart things about that, because we've seen literally no Trinity Force Ezreal this season, but you look down this enemy team comp, they're not running at you. There's no Udyr on the side of Longzhu. They're going to be kiting backwards to protect for the Cogmore. The blue build is not as incentivized in this particular game, so he's going damage focused rather than what we've expected and what's been the routine this season.
Longzhu now grouping up around the dragon. Should go uncontested here. Yeah, nothing going to be happening.
Chaser really wanting to hold on to his smite, potentially looking for a pick onto Wolf afterwards. Remember, Wolf is still level 5, does not have the ult.
He sees Chaser there. He's just taunting them right now. He knows that the wards are there, and he knows that Chaser's waiting for him, so he's actually just wasting their time a little bit.
Meanwhile at Duke.
Meanwhile at Duke. Some nice farmer. And Bang now has that True Shot Barrage. Or the culling rather, True Shot Barrage will clear out the minion wave from the mid lane. And this is what Faker does with this True Shot Barrage. He just tries to get that cooldown lower by spamming his Q and then helping to control his team. Faker's on his way down, and there's the Destiny. Looks like Longzhu will be making the power play here. Popping the Destiny no gate follow-up as 4 members of SKT move down into the bottom to defend, and they took some turret damage in mid and bottom, but I mean the price that has been paid is Duke has a massive amount of farm now.
Going to reach that scary 2-item Fiora phase even earlier than perhaps expected, but the other side of the coin, Cogmore has gotten away with what has always been a pretty weak laning phase, at least until the W changes come out in 6.3, and now has the Rage Blade and is only 20 CS away from cashing in the Cull as well, that we didn't talk about, was picked up in this game. It wasn't against the tier stacking Ezreal, this time was actually against a Lucian, but of course, mostly against a 2v0 stage. So in the lane swap, has been able to, unpressured, pick up that first item that builds so poorly. You're building a Rage Blade and then spending 1,000 gold on a recipe without getting any power. But gonna kick into high gear soon.
Oh, Duke gonna get caught right now. Expression is gonna whimsy him, and that is it. Knocked up at the end. Chaser picks up the kill, and Duke had a lot of money in the bank right there. He does go back, pick up some items. He had farmed, though, about 50 CS without returning, and now we'll have that chance to buy, but meanwhile, Faker managing to hold on. Nope, just barely can't hold on to his turret. And he is actually going for a pickaxe next, so maybe on a Mune after the Sheen and the Phage. An interesting build right there.
The reason why you might want to go for Manamu in this situation without finishing the Trinity Force is that you're not building an Iceborne Gauntlet for any sort of minion wave control, so the extra AD, just your Mystic Shot actually helping pushing the wave, is relevant in this situation. Because if he keeps falling behind in minion wave control, this Udyr split push is just never going to happen if he's always going to have waves pushed in. And it feels like they're missing out on what should be a really strong mid-game turret phase just by the fact that every lane is kind of being out-pressured. And that's just a reality when you've had Duke freezing for the large majority of 15 minutes.
Yeah, they paid for it too. Duke freezing has cost them quite a bit when it comes to the damage on the bot tier 2 and taking out the mid lane. So this is the price that SKT was willing to pay for this. It has been a high price though, and Longzhu is making the most out of this situation. They've come out with a very large gold lead for 15 minutes of 4,000. It's not insignificant.
You have to say that on balance, SKT's game plan in the early game has been scattered. One person is freezing, whereas the rest of the team is built for the fast turret push. So scattered identity, and the result is a muddied 4,000 gold hole that's only going to expand. It's going to be an inner turret going down.
Yeah, we talked about the pressure game being necessary and actually in the advantage of SKT here, but Longzhu has just been playing the map better. And Papa, I think the biggest problem is that they were freezing both bottom and top lane at the same exact time. Had they used Bang and Luke to push out just a little bit more in bottom. But freezing 2 lanes is incredibly dangerous in League of Legends because it results in situations where your opponents can quickly rotate from turret to turret and just take out all your defenses.
I mean, just the simplest thing to explain to the viewers is you're freezing 2 waves when you have an invading jungler. That's almost like a contradiction of terms, because the invading jungler wants you to be pushing in so that he can take enemy camps, so that he can pressure the enemy jungler. Just look at Peanut, who plays every jungler, maybe not the Nocturne, but every other jungler like an invading jungler. Why pick Udyr and then kind of passively farm your lanes while freezing in 2 lanes? It's completely scattered, and the result is that Bengi is markedly behind in the jungle matchup that he should be crushing.
Yeah, has a Sight Stone now, so does go for that item. Since he decided not to go for the Tracker's Knife, but the only thing he's done with the Chilling Smite so far is blow Coco's Flash, and there was no follow-up on that.
And you know who's a pretty good split pusher? Lichbane Rush, Twisted Fate, of course. He's going to invest into the Zonias for some backup team fighting, but Longzhu have basically been gifted map pressure in the early game phase, and if they can translate that into a couple more Dragons where SKT will be forced to fight on Longzhu's terms, Juggermore kiting back or Protect the Cogmore kiting back is one of the scariest late game team fighting comps in the game.
Yeah, and SKT, they've got to figure out a way to get a couple more turrets back here and re-enter this game. That's what they're doing right now. Won't work. Pure just going to block the two-shot barrage with Unbreakable, and again another turret just getting hammered by this Cogmaw. Wow, Longzhu actually just playing the map excellently so far.
This Longzhu looks so much more ordered in the early game, which is already one of their strongest phases. This team has a really high GPM, very highly mechanical players that have always laned well, but the game plan, look, the early game has never been their biggest problem, but they are so well researched against SKT. They're playing their opponent better than I've seen a team do all season.
Hold claim there. Wow, Flash Pulverize coming in. They're going to knock Pure over. Bengi is there with a follow-up stun. Now Pure trying to get away with the Unbreakable. Bengi now on the pursuit. Is in that turtle stance. Nice cocoon there from Chaser, and they're going to slow him down. Flash stun onto Pure. It cost them quite a bit, though. 2 flashes for that kill, but SKT will get some control over the Dragon. They still have to deal with Duke in the top side, too. He pushes that wave forward, so that will delay the 5th Dragon stack. SKT uses those 2 flashes to buy themselves a kill, a Dragon, and most importantly, some more time in this game.
Start to make up this almost 5,000 gold lead that's been accrued just mostly from the macro game from Longzhu. That time, Coco didn't have Destiny, wasn't in range, couldn't affect the fight, so very nice pick coming through from SKT. Gets them the Dragon as well. Just a note, we still don't have Dragon timers, so gonna have to rely on that 6th sense to know when it's up, but now 1 and 1, so.
I call it the 6-minute sense, Papa Smithy.
6 minutes, 6 cents, okay. I like it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with this patch.
I don't know.
Dragon and Baron timers.
Well, I mean, the LCS was played on 6.2 with Kindred enabled, so I don't know how we have Kindred disabled and no timers.
We also
what was the same patch.
We also still don't have any team logos on the bases or anything like that.
I knew you'd come back to that.
Here in Backwater, Korea, you could win the World Championship, but you will not get your banners on the base.
We let the League of Legends do the talking because some of the trimmings not quite there. Well, Longzhu gonna keep pushing.
They have the siege. I mean, the wave clear just isn't there, so that's the 2nd inner turret, but they're gonna go for this actually. Wolf looking for an angle over the wall, and Duke's still pursuing right now. Wolf is trying to get in range. Duke trying to dodge some of these skill shots. There's a TP coming through from the side of Longzhu. Do get Coco there, and that will dissuade SKT from pursuing, but they have to burn a teleport for it. Meanwhile, SKT, no summoners used. Do decide to use the Grand Challenge, though. Now SKTelecom back into the lane. So they attempt to punish the extension there of Longzhu. Don't get much for it, but they do keep their turret.
Now gonna push aggressively into mid as a 4-man unit. Is there enough wave clear here? Right now it's only the Cogmore.
Yeah, they are pretty easily gonna be able to deal with that, though. The Lulu coming up from behind. Coco back on the split push himself now. Wants to finish off some of these low inner turrets. And there's no one to defend. SKT thinking about moving over to that side. Looks like they will designate Bang over to the top lane, but it's going to be too late.
Just another spell cast. No, doesn't even need it. Gets that turret. It's the 5th of the game. 5 and 2. The team with Udyr is 3 turrets behind the Cogmore.
This should not be happening. Coco is going to teleport.
Did he just teleport to get a Lichbane proc?
I think he did, Bob Smithy. I think he did.
Really wanted that blue buff.
I think he was trying to see where SKT was to see if he could safely take the blue buff.
But the only reason to do the second cast is to get a Lichbane proc. What a troll Coco is.
He hasn't even done anything on Twisted Fate. I think that's the most amazing part of this game to me, Bob Smithy, is that he has not gotten a kill or an assist yet. He's been playing well with the rest of his team and applying pressure via the split push, but it hasn't been him. I mean, honestly, the biggest factor in this game is probably Chaser.
Chaser's certainly been good, but the one thing we're seeing this game, kind of the thing I took away from really watching closely Longzhu's last series against Spenu, is that what really jumped out at me was that Captain Jack and Pure played differently around Chaser than they did Crash. They were right in there with Crash, backing him up on his aggressive invades, whereas in game 1, Chaser was farming his own jungle, and Captain Jack and Pure were just laning. This game, they're playing well with this combination as well, as finally we see Duke on our map. Remember, he's been farming solo this whole game, and he's not done chasing.
Yep, there's the Grand Challenge going down. It will expire before he can get the heal off. Does deal the damage. Bengi there running alongside him, but there is no commitment there from Udyr, just too far away. SKT trying to set up this siege with the Lucian and the Ezreal, but they just can't quite get it rolling. But split push coming in strong from Coco right here, who's starting to build up that AP, and with that Lichbane, they have to respect him as he gets closer and closer to that inhibitor.
Just how fast is this Longzhu lineup? They have Lulu and Twisted Fate, both of them. One of them has Movement Speed innate in the kit, and Lichbane coming from the Twisted Fate. Elise is there to work. There's going to be another turret for Longzhu.
The Braum play here has been really clutch, stopping these True Shot barrages, stopping these cullings, and And that's allowed Longzhu to effectively group and siege down these turrets, eliminating the most prominent forms of wave clear on SKT.
Longzhu have every outer turret down at 23 minutes. That's
Impressive.
insane.
Very impressive.
I was talking to Lust Boy before the match. It's his birthday today, and he sounded confident. And I thought, you know, that's maybe just a coach showing confidence for what is very obviously a difficult fixture, but his team look really prepped. And look, they may not win this game. Oh, that's another use of the Chilling Smite, stopping the recall. Might not win this game, but this is a clinical display on patch 6.2 of just early game rotations.
Yeah, and they haven't had to team fight at all with their composition. They've simply been setting up siege after siege, split push after split push, and it's been really working for them. You see Bengi going for that Spirit Visage as his next item. He's a long way out to providing his own split push pressure. Strange game where the Udyr jungle is on the back foot for the majority of 25 minutes, but barring one really nice pick that got them their first dragon, SKT have just been wholly dictated to by Longzhu. Chaser going for the Rylai's this game too, so they have increased crowd control to protect this Kog'Maw. With more damage too, which is always nice. Meanwhile, Duke is after Coco. Goodbye.
Did lose half his health though. Feels like Dragon's coming up soon. It's up now.
Yeah, Wolf gonna have to use that unbreakable though to get out of that.
Flash as well.
Pops his ult.
Suddenly Captain Jack's looking very safe with no flash on the Alistar and no health either. Backline threat immensely low, barring Bengi or Duke just wading their way towards him. It's going to be a second dragon for Longzhu.
25 minutes in, and Longzhu just slowly expanding their lead. But they're in for some trouble now as they look and see if they have to actually crack the inhibitor turrets. And they may not be in a position just yet to actually do this Baron. They don't have a lot of tankiness.
Tankiness is certainly something they really only have in fits and spurts when Lulu starts to concentrate her shielding and health, and ideally that's on Captain Jack in the front line. If we are looking at previous Protect the Kog'Maw comps, but you're right. Baron damage is very, very good. Specifically, Blade of the Ruin King, 4 attack speed Kog'Maw at this point will shred down that Baron, but tankiness may be the bigger issue, and of course, we're getting to that late game phase where Captain Jack certainly will be formidable in fights, but we can't forget that Fiora's split push, and even a team fight is going to be pretty scary as, yep, that's late game Kog'Maw.
Yep. Only going to get worse next patch, everybody.
Yay. Turns out if you put everything on one ability that you max first, champion gets really strong.
Shocking. Well, here comes the Baron attempt,
Boom.
and there he goes, chipping it down. Trinket Ward comes in with the blue trinket, so they are discovered, and Longzhu has turned away. But that's the problem right now, is they take a lot of damage from Baron, even though they can do it quickly. So they're in a really awkward situation where they can take it in a short window, but if they are caught during that short window, the poke from Lucian and Ezreal could very well end them.
I want to say this Spirit Visage is the first main item after Runeglaive. It's kind of perplexing to me. Obviously it provides tankiness, but I just don't see it helping him impact the map or impact the team fight, because you're still going to be kited, whatever you're building, by just the multitudes of slow, even the Rylai slow from Elise now, compounding the difficulty of Bengi actually getting on top of a carry that's worth stunning.
You're never really going to be able to use that passive either, because you're just not going to be in range to auto-attack people in turtle stance. I agree, not a lot of value there. You might as well be providing more pressure with the Zerat portal and just trying to play the map instead of play for these fights.
Well, just think of the items you pick up in the build that's famous. Zerat portal is going to be about map pressure, but has good tankiness stats and more movement speed with the point runner passive that it provides. And then Banner of Command, another aura for your team, so you're mostly buying team tankiness, but again, map pressure, whereas this is selfish itemization. This is just Spirit Visage to make only Udyr tankier. And I just feel like Udyr doesn't have a role in team fights if Longzhu are playing on point.
Fiora now, with that 50 CS advantage, is starting to push up. Finally completing some tier 3 items, the Titanic Hydra and Black Cleaver. Took a while. Duke was sitting on a lot of pieces, parts there for most of the game.
Should go and have good initiation, so should be just really slow chip damage. The question is, can Duke really punish Expression in the split push?
Fire all their ultimates off and try and push them off the turret. They do get 50% of the turret damage for that. SKT attempting to crawl back into this game. Only 2 turrets on their side right now, but they just have to buy time, really, because Duke is the answer to this equation.
This new lane assignment and no QSS on Fiora, maybe Twisted Fate could buy them a bit more time in mid, but to just be the waiting game from Longzhu. Fights out in the open really don't suit them. It's all about kiting backwards towards an objective and forcing SKT to come to them. So for now, we're just stalling. I guess that's a normal thing. Stalling around a mid turret 30 minutes in.
But if we take a look, too, at what SK is doing in terms of their warding, very good pink wards around their backside, and that's made it so Longzhu doesn't have any deep wards to really get a sense of whether they can engage or not, especially with Duke's Fiora still with that TP, but they've got to be very worried about this Baron right now. And they do have 2 blue trinkets up, and of course that True Shot Barrage also.
SKT is doing what they need to do. They need to keep on the split push. That's definitely their biggest window into forcing a mistake from Longzhu. And late game, around this phase and later, has been where Longzhu's calling seems to really let them down. If they have a big unassailable lead at the 20-25 minute mark, sometimes they can close it out. But when they're forced into those critical late game areas, playing around the 40 to 60 second death timers, that's really where they've been caught out against the best teams in the league.
Yeah, that's been their issue. The closing of some of these games where they have been sloppier, because coming into the season, the all-star lineup definitely there for Longzhu, but not so much the synergy. But we thought that might be a problem coming in. There were just so many star names used to having resources dedicated to them and to dictating this kind of styles of their team.
It's not just the personnel, it's the fact that they come from different teams who have been used to different game plans over the course of years. There's so much baggage you have to work off for them to all work on a new cohesive identity that it certainly was never going to be the first round robin where Longzhu really hit their peak.
I mean, the only real thread between these 2 teams was that Chaser and Coco both really like to play poke compositions on Jinair and CJ respectively, and that's how they started out the season with the Jace and with the Italy. But who's going to stop Duke now is the question. So SKT, they're playing extremely well from behind. They've managed to stop the bleeding and prevent their inhibitors from going down and prevent the Baron from being taken. And the Dragon stacking still a long ways off here. We'll see another one soon, but it'll only be number 3, and that's if Longzhu can get it.
Honestly, the best way for SKT to dictate Longzhu's moments is to have Fiora split pushing the bottom side of the map, because then the Baron pressure of the 4-man unit pushing pinks gets bigger and bigger. Speaking of pressure, we're seeing the Dragon started here by Longzhu. They can kite back. Fiora's not in position.
Yeah, they don't have good vision either. They're trying for a steal right here. They won't get it. Chaser already next to it in that spider form. SKT just trying to strong-arm their way and get a chance at the 50-50 smite, but they don't find it. Meanwhile, Fiora still in the bottom side, split pushing away.
It's when Fiora is splitting up to the inner turret that then the headaches finally start for Longzhu, because that's when Baron pressure will hit its highest. The 4-man unit will be able to push up pinks from an SKT perspective, and they have that strong pick potential. If you're face-checking an Udyr, it flashes up from Alistar. One person is picked. Forcing Baron will be the story for SKT.
It's been a great game so far, Papa Smithy. And both teams playing well. Longzhu strong out of the gate and taking a lot of objectives, and SKT now holding on. And even though they're behind 7K gold, they're still making this a very competitive match.
Certainly not a bloodthirsty one, but a smart one. Smarter than we would have expected. 2 teams playing to their win conditions and playing solid. There's been one person caught out of position really this whole game, and that was Pure, looking for an aggressive ward around the time of the second Dragon. Since then, honestly, both teams have played smart, and we're just waiting for that tipping point. Will it be a mistake, or will it be a really smart rotation that finally blows this game open? Because as you mentioned, it doesn't feel like a 7,000 gold lead to Longzhu.
No, absolutely not.
That's even with champions like Udyr, who are honestly mostly looking at their impact in the first 30 minutes of the game. So I guess deceptively, Longzhu are probably further ahead than you'd think, given both the gold lead and some of the scalings of their champions. It's just, will they ever get the fight that plays to the strengths of their draft?
Interesting that we see the Relic Shield now picked up here by Bengi.
Operation make one of these AD carries tankier.
Yeah.
Just turn the Sightstone into the Eye of the Equinox, then you're donating proportion of health over. I think it's fine. It's one of those situations where Bengi's bought one selfish item. He should build no more. Auras and extra tankiness for his team is all he really should be itemizing as the studio. Look at this return damage from Kog'Maw.
Absolutely devastating. SKT has to start winning some of these poke wars. The Bloodthirsters are coming into play though. Meanwhile, we do see Duke with the Spirit Visage, so he knows he's going to be split pushing against some AP champion, one or the other, so pick it up right now, and of course that extra healing on his ultimate going to be quite nice.
A really big fan of what Smeb likes to do. It's getting the Spirit Visage and then double lifesteal, Bloodthirster, and usually it's been the Bloodthirster and Ravenous Hydra, but of course there's room for something like a Blade situation, but probably those two former items, and then the Grand Challenge, and literally you're out healing Focus Fire. Probably not from a Juggernaut comp, but most Focus Fire just can't get through the healing that can come out if the Grand Challenge is popped by this Fiora.
Longzhu is going to group up, trying this Baron one more time. They are going to be seen, however, with that blue trinket. Fiora going to keep split pushing right now. The rest of SKTelecom walking over, but this Baron is going to just fall immediately. There's the ultimate here from Coco coming through, and who's going to get it? Will be Chaser in the end, but Coco has Zhonya. He's got nearly no HP left. Faker now coming in, trying to get some Mystic shots down from behind. Coco actually lives through this. Duke, though, finds Chaser in the mid. He's going to hop over the wall. Flash used there, and Chaser will escape, actually, in the end. Nope, he's going to get found by Duke. Gold card onto Duke right now. Doesn't quite get the riposte on the gold card, but the chase is still on. Pure wants to try and save his teammate, but Faker there with the arcane shift, and now Wolf is getting quite low. Has to be worried about those caster minions. Bengi and Bang now on a near ace, going to be charging down, and this is SKTelecom's window back into the game.
And honestly, Longzhu are punished for trying to finish the Baron with no tank. They were so squishy that by the time that this SKT team came through, so easy to clean them up. And what does Baron grant you? It's off the map, sure, but you're going to lose all your base. They might even lose the game right here.
I think they are going to do just that, Papa Smithy. They can just go ahead and tank these mid turrets. Those are going to be going down quite fast in the 280 carries and the Fiora. Here comes Expression, zooming out of the base. Great wild growth, actually, 4-man hit. But is it going to be enough? Pure is tanky. I don't think he's quite there, and they're just going to focus the Nexus. Oh, it's going to be close, and they save the game. Ace for Longzhu. And those are some long death timers. We'll see what they can do. This could just be a reverse right down the middle, Papa.
Two overly decisive calls. One of them loses Longzhu the game almost. By a hair's breadth, they keep up that Nexus, and you're right, there's 40 seconds, and now Longzhu's going to try and take him down.
Yeah, he's going to try and clear out this minion wave. Super minion's going to be going down quickly.
Oh, the delay from taking down this minion wave is going to be pretty immense, though. They need a minion wave of their own. I guess Chaser might be tanky enough. They have very good turret damage.
5 seconds on Duke, or on Wolf rather. He does have the Unbreakable Will, so he can stall him out. We do see 12 seconds now on Bengi. I don't think they're going to be able to finish right here, but this Kog'Maw is very scary. Go knock up, he's going to pop his ultimate immediately. He's trying to buy as much time as he can. They're going to try and base race this, and looks like Longzhu is going to reverse this. Although Bengi comes in right now, they're going to try and focus down this Nexus. There we go, Gate going to come in. There, but that's going to be too much. Longzhu actually going to take it. And what a return on that game one. Back-to-back attempts at the Nexus. Longzhu wins in the end. That was weird and wild, but that is 1-0 now for Longzhu Gaming.
We've seen so many games in the history of League of Legends be decided by base forces, but never quite in this way. A force down the middle after a near ace by SKT. The Nexus lives on low health, and then just a brute force through an inhibitor turret. This is what happens on 6.2 when these death timers are so long, and they did it, Longzhu.
And it was that wild growth, that 4-man wild growth that actually won the game for Longzhu. Had they not been delayed just that split second, you gotta think that they would have been able to finish off that Nexus. It only had about, what, 1,500 HP left.
The only way this game could end is in more turret-based decision-making, macro strategy. It's not been about team fights. There was no team fight. There was one complete murder of Longzhu next to the Baron, a desperate force by SKT, and then an equally desperate force by Longzhu, and somehow, surreally, Longzhu went out.
Wow. Well, that was a fun start to this series. Longzhu coming out with a big win right here. SKT playing well from behind, but just couldn't quite make it in the end.
We're going to see
Very,
a
very
lot of
close.
Kog'Maw on 6.3.
Oh, yes. Well, we're going to see a lot of Kog'Maw bans, Papa. That's what we're going to see.
That's fair.
We'll see him in pick and ban. We will not see him in the actual game. That's what I think at any rate. Faker there actually doing the most damage overall and keeping up with his very high DPM this season, top of the league. But Longzhu plays a smart early game, plays very well around those objectives, and
plays very well around the Udyr.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're going to take a quick break, guys. Game 2 coming up in just a few.